Hi, I'm Ali and welcome to the China Repair Studio. So today I thought I would do a continuation of our Femoral Rose lady here who's 18th century. Now in my previous videos I have actually cleaned her up, and in my last video I did actually re-glue her as she has radial cracks and some very fine hairline cracks, and so I thought I would stabilise her by putting in a very fine glue. So I thought in this video I would actually start filling her in a bit with some Milliput, and I'm going to use two different colours. I usually use super fine white Milliput, but today I'm going to use, as I said before, two different colours, which I think would be more in keeping with her colouring, and we'll see how we get on. But before I do, if you haven't subscribed before, please subscribe, please like and please share, but also put a thumbs up, that would be great. If you want anything, it's in the description box down below, so website and also my email address and any comments. So let's get going. So here we are with our Femoral Rose lady. Now I've got some Milliput. I've decided to go for some turquoise, as I think this would work very well with this colour here. And I've decided to go for a silver grey Milliput for the piece of her shirt here. Now, one thing I did do in a previous video, and I would highly recommend, is when you have any different colours of Milliput or any other sort of form of clay, is to actually make small discs. And I did this in a previous video to show you the different colours, and they're very useful because then, for instance, I can take this piece, which was the turquoise, and I can just put it up against her and think, actually that would work better than a white. And now you can see here, this is the white, superfine white. Now if I put it up against her, it's quite brilliant white against her shirt here. But if I use the silver grey, it's just slightly dull. When you compare them together, for instance, one's a lot lighter than the other. So I'd highly recommend, making these small discs so you just can, just see the different tones of colour, and you can go up against and then decide which Milliputs you want to use. So I'll put those down. So I think the first colour we're going to work on will be the white parts here. And I'm going to use, as I said before, the Milliput Silver Grey. Now, you don't need very much of this, and obviously it's only small hairline cracks, so we won't want too much. And it comes out, it's quite a sort of a dark grey colour, and we'd only need literally a small amount like that. And I tend to roll it up into a ball. It's easier to compare sizes. But always make sure, once you've done it, to put it straight back into its film there. And then we're going to take the other one, the other part. Now this is more of a sort of yellowy colour. And then I'm just going to take a bit off there. I'm going to roll it into a ball and just compare sizes. And if they're the right size, we can combine them together. Again, taking this and folding, making sure it's nicely wrapped. And then you just want to combine them together. And because they're two different colours, you can tell when they're combined, because it's not a marble effect, it's all one colour. Alright, so that's getting there now. Now you can see it's literally the same colour. Now for this to dry, it does start to harden very quickly. Not too quickly actually, not literally while you're doing it, but a good 12 hours. And if you can leave it 24 hours before you start sanding, even better. So I've got a little implement here, and it's quite flat on one end here, and it's quite fine. And if you don't have anything like this, a very small palette knife or even a cocktail stick will do. But this I do find very useful. And again, I'll just take a tiny little piece, and then I'll just look at her. I need her in the light, and then you just want to gently press in to where those cracks are. Again, small piece. I tend to work on the back part, not the front. When you have this, it does sort of, you can see it goes down, and so you want the back part. Well, I tend to use the back part anyway. I do find it easier. And then we just want to fill in. Just go along there and up there. Just to fill in any small cracks. A tiny bit, little bits more. Again, a tiny little bit like that. Again, if you can get some good light, you can actually see in the lights where she needs to be done. I mean, the cracks aren't too bad here, to be honest. It's just if there's any. You just want to fill her in and wait for that to dry. You could actually use your finger and moisten with some water, and you could rub in if you wanted to, but I'll probably just leave her to dry, to set for a little bit, and then I'll probably do that. So now we're going to use this colour here, which is the turquoise blue, and actually it's a very useful colour. You do tend to find lots of Chinese tend to have this sort of colour here. And so this is sort of more of a yellowy colour. So again, you won't need very much because it's just sort of radial cracks. Again, roll it into a ball. I'm going to put that back in there. And then we've got this lovely vibrant, it's almost like a petrol green. And then again, roll it into a ball so you can roughly get the same size, and then just, let's take a little bit off there, and then just mix them in together. I also find the silver grey a very useful colour. A lot of Chinese tends to have a blue hue, so the silver grey works really well. If anything, it works better than white on Chinese, particularly Chinese porcelain. So we want to mix this in. Because it's two very different colours, again, it will start out so it's all sort of mottled and almost like marble effect, and we just want to make sure that's all out and completely as one. There we go, and that's almost there. And then when you can't see any other colours in there and it's nicely combined, again we can then go on with filling in if there's any little bits and pieces of cracks. So again, I take the back part of my implement and I just take a tiny piece into the light, and then you just want to go along just keep going along like so. Again, adding another piece. You just want to go all the way along like that just to fill it in. It doesn't matter if we go over because we can take bits off and sand later. You want to do small bits at a time rather than just trying to do one long roll. Well, I tend to find it easier just doing a little bit at a time. Into there. Let's maybe fill it in a bit there. Right, now I can see here we're now going into this colour here, this greeny colour. So actually I think I'll finish this last little bit off, and then I think I'm just going to use the grey, the silver grey with this colour. I don't actually have a green Milliput. but the silver grey will be fine because we are going to be hand painting her in afterwards. I've decided not to use the airbrush on her because she's quite mottled anyway, and I think it would look too flat if she was actually not hand painted. So we will be hand painting her, which, if you've seen my other videos, you know I absolutely love hand painting. Before I started doing china repair, I actually did train as a botanical artist at Swisley. So I do love colour, and I do love, as I say, hand painting, and I love detail. Tiny little bit more on there. Right, so once we've done that, we're just going to add, so just see a little bit of a hairline piece here. So I'm just going to take, you can scrape it off with your finger. I'll just add it to. Again, if you have any little bits like this, always make them into a disc or roll them in a ball. You may find them handy at another stage if you need to just bulk something in. And then we'll just take our other piece again, which is the silver grey. And we're just going to add, just finish off doing. I do actually now have a website, so if there's anything you want on there, please look at my website. I do have affiliate links, but it doesn't cost you any more money if you actually if you order from there. The links are mainly .com, but I will start putting in a few more links for the UK. Obviously, if you're in Australia and other parts in the world, you can use the .com, and I think you can actually still use the England. You just have to have it delivered, you know, sent to you from another country. But I will put those in. Milliput is actually it actually comes from Wales, so it's actually produced in Wales, in the United Kingdom. So so if you're in England, it's very easy to get hold of. But I have seen it also on Amazon in .com, on .com. Right, there we are. Can't see any more lines there. She might have a bit there, but I think that might have been from the firing. I might just add a tiny. No, I won't actually. I think I'm going to leave that bit. Maybe a tiny bit actually. Sometimes you've just got to assess it as you go along, and it's your own judgment. So yeah, just a little bit there. That's where it's gone down a bit. Don't want to overdo it. There we go. There is a tiny bit there, but I'm going to leave that. Again, it's gone to that stage. I will probably paint this bit in, but I don't want to fill it in and sort of lose its essence. So I can't see any more here. And although there is the line here, because it's been filled in with previous glue, and I have tried to chip it off, I can probably just paint. There's no sort of line, so I'll probably just very lightly paint over that. So I'm just looking and assessing, and I'm quite happy with that. Again, I will probably, in about an hour's time, I will just get some water, and just with my finger I will just work along and smooth it down so it's easier for sanding. And yeah, and so there we are. How to use Milliput and silver grey and the turquoise blue. I thought it was fun to show some different colour tones today, so I hope you found it interesting, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.